Hey there guys, James Graves here, so happy to see you. I hope you're having a good day wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and I hope you're keeping well towards the end of what's been a rather interesting year. Yes, I am wearing a Christmas jumper in November. I'm usually a believer in Christmas does not start until winter begins. Don't even talk to me about Christmas before the 1st of December, just don't mention it, I don't want to hear it, I've got too much other stuff to do. But this year's a little bit different with all that's going on. I figured we could do with a little bit more festive cheer. I believe that if 2020 has taught us anything, it's that we can live without going to the shops, we can live without those freedoms that we take for granted every single day. But what we can't live without is our family and our friends and the people that are around us, and Christmas is a time to celebrate that. So yes, Christmas is starting early this year. I even got some lights for you guys. I don't know if you can see them, they're not very bright, but I tried. And to kick it all off, I'm going to start by talking about 10 gift ideas for that creative person in your life, all of which I have bought myself and used for a long period of time. Now this might seem like a super general topic, but I'm a firm believer in the best gift is the one that the person didn't know that they wanted. Take my partner Lisa for example. First Christmas together she wanted a jumper. I made her a phoenix. Why a phoenix you ask? Well, it's kind of an inside thing, it's one of the things we bonded over together when we first met, that we both love phoenixes. I've got one tattooed on my arm. And no, it's got nothing to do with Harry Potter. And last year's birthday, she wanted books. I got her a holiday to Venice. The best gift is always one that they never expect. So today I'm going to show you a few things that I think any creative would love to have, whether they knew they wanted it or not. Now, number one is actually not that interesting, but materials. Coming from someone who's into leathercraft, 3D printing, carving, metalworking, all these different things, I really appreciate it when someone gets me the materials that I use on a daily basis, because it's something that I know I can use. If someone's into leatherworking, maybe get them some nice tooling leather that's a little bit different to what they usually use and they can make something different with. If they're into 3D printing, get them an exotic colour like a nice bright blue or something that they wouldn't usually buy because they don't want to spend the money, but if you buy it from them, they're going to really appreciate it and be able to make something they haven't made before. If they're into film photography, then get them some film. Point is, this is a pretty safe option, but you know that they're going to appreciate it because they're going to be able to use it. And by buying them a gift related to their hobby, to their craft, the thing that they love, you're showing an interest in what they do, and they're really going to appreciate that you're supporting them in doing that. Now, number two is a Dremel, otherwise known as a rotary tool. These things are brilliant, and whatever craft you're into, whatever you're doing, whether you're carving wood, carving metal, engraving, just fiddling with models, anything small, drilling, cutting things, you will be able to use this. And the great thing is they're not too messy and they're quite small and lightweight, so you can use them indoors, and they're just absolutely brilliant for so many different things. You would have seen in my previous videos that I use this thing a lot, whether it's for cutting or polishing. I especially use it for polishing because it's just really great for that with these little wheels, and I can use that for polishing steel. I use it on my rings even if they get a little bit scratched up. So if the person you're buying for is into any kind of creative outlet where they're making things with their hands, I definitely recommend this. You don't need to get a Dremel branded one specifically, there are other rotary tools out there, but I found that the price for these is extremely reasonable and they're really good quality, they last for years, and there are just all sorts of different accessories available to you. So I definitely would recommend going with a Dremel if you can. I'm not sponsored by them, but these things are great. In terms of price, I think this one was about £45, but there's all sorts of different variants you can get. Dremel makes so many different ones depending on the size you want, how much you want to spend. So take a look on Amazon, I'll link this one below, but you can look at other recommended ones on there as well to see what best suits you. Now moving on to number three, this is your opportunity to give someone the chance to try something they haven't done before, and that's with this inexpensive leather starter kit. Now maybe that person in your life has mentioned wanting to try out leather crafting at some point, or they saw my previous video and they just thought, yep, gotta try that. Or whether they've never even talked about it, it's never crossed their mind, you might still want to get them to try leather crafting. These little kits are great, they start at about £10 to £15 and everything in here that you need to be able to start your own leatherworking projects. Now the contents of these tend to vary quite a lot, but if you can get something with some kind of cutting disc or knife, some needles and thread, maybe an edge slicker, some beeswax gets thrown in there, some other things for making grooves, and you just get all sorts of stuff in there. And though these are cheap and expensive tools, they are a great starting point and they do everything that you need to be able to start with your own project. You might have watched Little King Goods on YouTube and think, wow, look at all those expensive pieces of equipment they've got and really nice little craft knives, and you don't need any of that. If you watch my previous tutorial, see that you can make your own leatherworking projects with just a knife. So these little kits have enough in there that you can start with cutting leather, shaping, cleaning up the edges, you can try stitching as well. All the things that that person really needs to decide whether they enjoy leatherworking and whether they want to pursue it further. So why not give them a gift of a new hobby and see if they enjoy it. Now number 4 is something a bit more general, which I feel like every creative person should own, and that is these little field note journals. Here in England, the Field Note brand are a little bit more expensive, so people tend to go with Moleskine, which are really good quality, and they're the same size as Field Notes. Now these things are the perfect size to just put in your pocket or put in your bag like I do and carry around with you all day, and if an idea strikes, then it's there and you can start writing them down. Whether you're a filmmaker or a tinkerer or just any kind of maker or creator in general, this is just really good for writing down ideas. If you look at mine, I've got drawings of things that I've designed, things that I want to make for videos, video ideas, vlog ideas. Here I've got a list of different lighting setups that I can use and refer to. Now I know that people carry around their phones nowadays and you can just use the Note app, but to me there's nothing quite like using pen on paper, having the ability to draw. It just really embeds it in your memory a lot better than if you're just typing something onto a phone. As you can see, I've got a fancy little slip for mine. This is from a British company called Pilgrim Leathercraft. It's really nice quality. I'm not sponsored by them, but I paid full price for this, but this is a really great product, really well made, and it just protects your field notes really well. You can put a pen in there, you can put your cards in there as well. So if you want to get an extra gift for someone with their notes, then one of these works really great as well. So field notes is something I think everyone should have. You can buy, I think, 3 of these for about £10 on Amazon, and the journal cover was 20, but as I said, really nice quality. So something definitely to think about. Oh God, it's getting way too hot for this jumper now. I think Lisa put the heating on. Now number 5 is something a little bit different again, something that maybe allows that someone to try something new, and that is this Mora carving knife. Specifically, this is for whittling, so when you're sat on your front porch watching the sun go down, just whittling away at that bit of wood, turning it into something beautiful, this is the kind of knife that you want. Now Mora are a very well known brand for carving knives. They're from Sweden, they make really good quality knives for a good price. I think this was about £10 or £12, and this is really your one-stop shop for whittling. This isn't something you need any prior experience with. You can just pick up a block of wood and then just start whittling away and see what you can create. The first thing I ever made was this little bear here for Lisa for Christmas, and that's when I got into carving, was so that I could make her this bear. So I think this is a great inexpensive gift or stocking filler for someone who's creative and maybe you think they'll appreciate trying out a new hobby. They have even cheaper versions of this exact same knife. This one's just a plastic handled one, and I think this was about £7 or £8. It's the same blade, the same steel, but it's just a slightly cheaper kind of construction. It does the same job. So again, creative hobbies don't usually need a big investment in the first place. You can just get some simple tools and you can play around, and this is a great way of introducing someone to a new hobby, which I think if they pick it up and they like it, then they're going to really appreciate that gift because you are the person that got them into that hobby and you allowed them to find that passion. Now number 6 is another great inexpensive stocking filler again, something which I think anyone should have, let alone creative people, and that is this little screwdriver set. For about £6 or £7, you get a little set with pretty much every screwdriver size you're ever going to need to take apart anything that you're ever going to need to take apart. So whether the person you're buying for likes to make things or fix things or just take things apart to see what's inside like I used to do, then this little set will do pretty much everything you ever need it to. The great thing about these is there's so many different sizes, they're good for so many different things, especially small things. When I was about 15, 16, I used to take apart old film lenses to fix them and refurbish them. So I really wish I thought about buying one of these back then. It would have been so much easier and so much faster. And now that I have one, in fact I've actually got 2 sets, I've got one here and I keep one at the office. I use them pretty much every single day. So just a great gift for anyone, to be honest, super inexpensive but extremely helpful. So now moving on to number 7. Number 7 is actually the cheapest but the best present on this list, and that is to make something yourself. This might seem counterintuitive because the person you're buying for is creative and they make things themselves. But anyone appreciates a handmade gift, particularly someone who's creative and someone makes their own things because they know that the work that goes into these things. Let's say the person you're buying for is into photography. Why not make them their own personalised leather camera strap, for example? Or if they're into reading or writing, then why not make them their own personalised bookmark? As a little hint, if you keep an eye out for next week's video, you'll probably find there's a few handmade gift ideas in that one. Or if they have an interest in being minimalistic or in just general everyday carry, for example, then why not look at my previous videos and you'll see plenty of ideas there. So now more than ever is the time to show that person how much you care about them and give them the gift of creativity to that creative person for Christmas. Moving on to number 8. Still at number 8. It's a pretty long video. Moving on to number 8, let's assume the person in your life likes to use a computer sometimes. I mean, who doesn't? Now let's assume as well they probably like making stuff, or photography, or filmmaking, or film editing like visual effects. Then something they might find really useful is a graphics tablet, like this one here. I'll just get it. Now, contrary to what you might think, these are not just for drawing, they can be used for all sorts of different applications. I do use this primarily for drawing and logo design, but I've also used this for Photoshop, and sometimes if I'm using After Effects to do visual effects on my videos, then this can be really useful for keyframing things and just making it a lot easier than using a mouse. This comes with a little stylus as well. It's just like a normal pen, and this essentially is just a mouse, but in the shape of a pen. So you can do what you like here, you can move around the screen, and it gives you a lot more control than a general mouse because it's got the fine movements that you would have with a pen, and it's also got these shortcuts down the side just to make your workflow that much easier. And if it's someone that just likes to make things, whether it's carpentry or metalworking or whatever, this can still be useful because you can use this to draw out your designs and digitize them a lot easier than if you're drawing on paper and then having to scan them in and you can't change and go back and edit things. With this, with certain softwares, you can erase things, change colors, and it's just really, really good. And if you're doing client work as well for whoever they might be working for, if they're sending designs to someone that wants a metalworking project done, for example, then it can look a lot more professional if you've drawn it on a computer and you sent it that way. So I think this graphics tablet is great for anyone who has creative hobbies or a creative business, because you can use this for so many different things. This one is a little bit over £50. I think this was 65 or 60, this particular model. This is a Huion H610 Pro, I think, which is a really well-known kind of consumer level tablet, probably the most common one there is. But this company and other companies do slightly cheaper ones as well that you can get for about £30 or £40, which also do a really good job. Now, the penultimate gift idea, number 9, is something which might seem a little bit specific again, but actually it can be used for so many different applications, is the still tabletop bench vise. Now, perhaps the person you're buying for is someone like me. They've got access to a workshop with 1 or 2 or 3 much bigger, much more capable vices than this one. Then why would you want to buy them this one? Well, I specifically use this one in my office. I don't use it in the workshop. I have it bolted onto the side of the desk here sometimes. I just get it out when I need it, bolt it on. When I'm not using it, I put it away in a drawer. And I use this for all sorts of small tinkery things that I don't really want to go to the workshop for, but I want to be able to play around with at my desk. Now, see on here, this has a little ball head. And if you keep that somewhat loose enough that you can just kind of move it around a little bit, but it's still holding, you can actually use that and you can spin it around on your desk, and you can adjust your positioning for engraving or any kind of small things that you need to do. And that's a functionality that I don't have with my main vices, is just being able to move this head so much. So for me, it's actually advantageous to have this as well as my usual ones in my workshop, so it's definitely useful to have. Now, better still, if the person you're buying for doesn't have a workshop, but they're into creative hobbies, whether it be carving or engraving or jewelry making, anything like that, where they're working with small things that they need to be able to hold, then this is a really, really useful thing to have. One of the best things about it is it's really compact, it's really versatile, and it's sturdy enough for most of those kind of small applications. Particularly if you pair this with a Dremel or some of the other things I talked about earlier, you can make a good little studio setup in your house without having to have a full-on workshop that you can still be able to tinker away and make things to your heart's content. And I got all this for about £15, I think, which is extremely reasonable considering the amount of uses you get out of something like this and the versatility of it. And finally, number 10. I've got 10 fingers. Don't know why I checked. This one's a little bit bigger, but it's something I've used countless times over the years for multiple different applications, and that is a little airbrush. What an airbrush essentially does is the same thing as a spray can, except you can load up whatever colours you like, and it is so much more precise. You can do really, really fine details, like tiny details with it, as opposed to just spraying like a messy goop out of a spray can. This is what professionals use for doing professional artwork on fuel tanks for motorbikes and things like that, like all the way fancy flames that you see. That's all done with a little airbrush. I purchased mine many years ago when I was younger. I used to paint models and things, and that's what I bought it for, but I've used it for a lot of different things since. This isn't something which is just useful for artists who like to paint. I mean, that's probably the primary application. It's very, very good. If there's someone you're buying for as an artist, then definitely buy them this. And nowadays I use it primarily as a base coating and varnish tool for things like 3D prints or other small objects that I've got that they need to varnish and coat to protect, and an airbrush just gives you a much more consistent and even coat than a spray can will, and over time it actually works out so much cheaper to invest in an airbrush because spray cans are about £10 a pop, and the airbrush will spread everything a lot better. You can just use little paint pots that are like £2 each and they'll go almost as far as an entire paint can. Going beyond that still, my mum for example, she actually has an airbrush of her own that she uses for edible sprays when she's making her own chocolate cakes. So this certainly isn't applicable to all people, but I would say it's something that a lot of creative people will appreciate and be able to use in some form or another. Should probably check how much these are actually. Oh, okay, well, an airbrush is more like 65, 70. It's close enough. So there you are folks, 10 mostly inexpensive gift ideas for that creative person in your life, all of which I'm sure they can use and appreciate a lot. I know that some of these ideas are a little bit specific and maybe don't apply to the person that you're thinking about, but I hope that you found at least one thing in this list that was helpful to you. Or at the very least, I hope you found one thing that you can buy for yourself. If you did find something helpful, then I'd really appreciate it if you could let me know by giving this video a thumbs up and a comment below, just so I know how many people this has helped and whether I want to do more videos like this in future. Also, feel free to comment to let me know what you want to see next time, and please do subscribe to the channel and hit all notifications so you can see new videos every single week. I really hope that you guys are doing well and that you're able to wind down a little bit soon before Christmas, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.